Hey, how's it going, guys? Thank you for joining me on this week's episode of The Real Deal. This time I'm pointing at my chest because I got this cool polo made. So it was pretty cool. My son and my niece and my daughter, we had a day to ourselves. My niece spent the night. Noza was working. So we're like, man, what do we do? So I had been wanting to get Mexican candy because I didn't get any from when we went to Mexico, because it's all, airplane and carry-on bags. Anyway, so we went to this place on 75th Avenue in Cactus called Mercado de los Cielos. If you guys haven't been there, it's awesome. They have all types of traditional Mexican food and candy, and along with that, a ton of embroidery and screen print and vinyl print shops. Anyway, so as soon as we walked in, I saw this shop that had embroidery, hats. So I was like, you know what? I've been looking to get a polo. So I ended up buying 4 different colors. So I'll be having a little bit more variety on my episodes. I've been looking at my Instagram page, and I'm like, man, I kind of have my favorite shirts. I got to change it up a bit. Anyways, so today we're talking about something that's very sensitive. It's a very sensitive subject to a lot of people for obvious reasons. It's a very intimate thing that people that we personally know close to us or us have gone through, and it's a lot of times these 4 main items, short sales, bankruptcies, and foreclosures. Bankruptcies, obviously 13 and 7, hold people back from purchasing homes, and it's because there's a lot of misconceptions out there. So I wanted to talk about that because it's just been something that's been the topic of discussion recently with either friends or clients potentially looking to buy a house. So I wanted to put this out there because of that reason, because I know it's hard to talk about. A lot of people don't like talking about it because, once again, it's a sensitive subject to speak on. But I'm not going to talk about the reasons behind why people go short sale, bankruptcy or foreclosure. Every single person has their reasons, and they're obviously in the best interest of them and their families. But what we're going to talk about is simply how long you have to wait. What is the process after you're done with any one of those to purchase a house? Most people think it's 7 years, which is crazy. I've heard that more than once, and that does apply to one of those. It's when you think 7 years, that is a huge time frame to have to wait to purchase a house. The good news is that only applies to one particular item that we're going to talk about. I'll talk about 4 main ones today. Obviously, I'm not an attorney. You have your bankruptcy attorneys and you have I'm just gathering information that I have received from lenders that have closed deals with these time frames. Now, each situation is very different. Each situation might have because of this, because of that. I don't know the specifics on that. I am not an attorney, but I am going based off of track records, off of deals that have closed with these specific time frames. Okay, so let's start off with the first one. Let's go ahead and hide that logo there. Let's start out with foreclosures because that is the most common one that affected the economy, 10 years ago, is foreclosures and short sales, right? So this is something that's very, very relevant. Now, fortunately, a lot of these clients are already hitting that 7-year mark, but some people didn't foreclose until a couple years after the fact. So let's talk about the time frames for that. When it comes to FHA and VA financing, which are government-backed loans, which are the most common, FHA is the most common loan that closes anyway. The wait is only 3 years for a foreclosure. VA is 2 years. Now, conventional, that's where that 7-year mark comes from. This is where people get a lot of that misconception that you have to wait 7 years after a foreclosure. Conventional loans are more popular nowadays because you don't have to put 20% down like you used to 20 plus years ago. A lot of clients do take advantage of conventional, but for the most part, honestly, a lot of my clients still use FHA loans. When I purchased my first house, I used an FHA loan. So, and traditionally speaking, FHA will have better interest rates. They're going to have more lax debt to income requirements. All in all, FHA is still a great program, and there is no reason why you wouldn't want to go with FHA versus conventional. Like, you shouldn't have to wait 7 years to purchase a house. You can do it with FHA. Okay, so this is for foreclosure. Now, let's move on to short sale. Short sale is also something that happened, very common. Short sale was an alternative to a foreclosure, and I know a lot of people that did short sales. Short sales, they require a lot less time of seasoning than a foreclosure would. So let's talk about short sales. Short sales, FHA, 3 years. Once again, same as with a foreclosure. Our VA is potentially, and this is based on a case-by-case scenario, if you did a VA, if you're looking for a VA purchase, you could actually, even though you had a short sale, there might be times where you don't even have to wait. Case-by-case scenario, obviously talk to your lender about that, or obviously talk to me about that. And when it comes to conventional, once again, conventional is a little bit longer. For a short sale, it's still 4 years. But as you can see, there is those benefits, short sale versus foreclosure. Now let's talk about bankruptcies. Now, bankruptcies require a little bit more research because they're a little bit more tricky. Bankruptcies, there's different types of bankruptcies. There's 713, and then obviously there's also those are a little bit more tricky, where these are going to be some general guidelines as far as the seasoning time. But once again, these are proven in the books, closed transactions that my lenders have handled. So it's definitely possible. So we're going to talk about first Chapter 13. Actually, let's do Chapter 7 because that one's a little bit more strict. So Chapter 7, once again, FHA is only 2 years. VA is 2 years. Conventional is 4 years. There's people that I know that went through a Chapter 7 bankruptcy and their credit scores are already above 600. The only thing they're waiting for is for that 2-year mark, so that way they can start the process to buy a house. So if you guys went through a bankruptcy or foreclosure short sale, keep working on your credit, because when that seasoning time is over, you're going to be able to start putting offers and purchasing your own house. So that's the case with this particular person that had a Chapter 7 bankruptcy. They've already started working on their credit. Credit's building back up. They already have an over 600 credit score. So as soon as that 2-year mark hits, boom, they'll be able to buy a house. Once again, 2 years. I mean, it's the same as what it was with the short sale. It's really not that long of a waiting period. And of course, there's Chapter 13. Chapter 13 gets a little bit more tricky. We're talking, there's obviously a lot that goes into it. But for FHA and VA, potentially, there's even a 1-year waiting period, which is crazy to think. That's a great incentive to go Chapter 13 versus Chapter 7. There's some requirements that go into that. Once again, reach out to me, reach out to your lender to talk about the specifics on how you can do the 1 year with Chapter 13 bankruptcy going FHA or VA. It has to do with payment history, whenever you set up your payment plan, as long as you've had continuous 12 months in payments. And there are some other requirements. You have to get a court ordered approval, but still very possible to do in 1 year. Otherwise, it's the same as what it was with Chapter 7. And then, of course, conventional is 2 years. So there you have it. But once again, so if you guys know anybody that purchased a house, when the economy spiked, and then of course, unfortunately they had to foreclose or short sale, and they think they can't buy for one reason or another, or anybody that's had a bankruptcy, anybody that's going through that process, like there's definitely light at the end of the tunnel. It's not like this crazy long 7-year mark as you guys saw. I can't recall off of memory, but go back and rewatch the video. There's different time frames, but most of them are pretty reasonable. I think the longest time frame was 3 years, and that was a foreclosure FHA loan. So there's definitely options out there. Don't ever let that hold you back from submitting an application to find out where you're at, especially if you need to work on your credit. That's the best time to do it. When you have some time anyway to wait to purchase a house, submit an application, find out what you can start doing to increase your credit score. And then by the time you're done seasoning with any of these items, you'll be ready to purchase a house. Anyway, guys, thanks for joining me on this week's episode of The Real Deal. Next week, I'm going to do a cool raffle a cool giveaway for a hat. So you guys stay tuned for next week's episode of The Real Deal with this new cool logo on it. It looks a lot better in person. Right now, it's kind of blurry. All right, guys, take care and have a great rest of your Monday.